Manchester in the late 80s, early 90s, on a street on the east side of the city. A young man has just packed his bags and walked out on his long-term girlfriend after finding out she's pregnant. The last we heard of him, he'd gone to Magaluf to work in the bars. Now he'd left behind his girlfriend, Grace Masters. Now as the next few years went by, Grace was an excellent single mother. She worked multiple jobs to provide for her little boy and gave him so much love he didn't even realise he needed a father. But sadly for little Lee Masters, his mother contracted a rare illness and died when he was only 5 years old, leaving poor Lee alone without any parents. But luckily Lee still had some loving family, because Grace's younger sister Linda decided that there was no way her nephew was going to go into the care system. She had recently married her long-time love Martin Smith, and they had a baby girl, and they decided they were going to give this little boy the best life they could, so they adopted him. Now Martin may have been Lee's uncle, but decided to bring him up as his own and call him his son and teach him everything he knew about life, and mainly about his one and only passion, football. Now after his wife, daughter and newly adopted son, there was one thing he loved more than anything else, and that was Manchester City. So Martin brought up Lee to be a die-hard Blue. Now only a few years later, Martin finally realised his dream. He wanted to be a football coach, and he wanted to be a football coach at Manchester City. And the day he walked into Platt Lane as an under-18s coach was one of the proudest days of his life. And after 10 years of coaching the youth team at City, he'd proven himself enough to become a first team coach. But Martin Smith had bigger dreams. He dreamed that one day, just one day maybe, he could become the manager of Manchester City, winning the Premier League for his beloved Blues. Another 5 years passed, and it was time for him to move on. Things had slowed down at City, and he'd been offered a great job at a massive club, Newcastle United, as assistant manager. And after a couple of years in the job, he managed to bring his son Lee, who had changed his name recently to Lee Smith. Lee would be a coach with the first team. He'd been doing all his badges, and he was ready to follow in his father's footsteps. After 3 years of working together, Martin was offered his first managerial job. It was at Charlton. It wasn't a huge club, they weren't in the Premier League, but he was getting his foot in the door, and he took his son with him as his assistant manager. Now Martin loved his time at Charlton. He spent 10 years as their manager, having a few ups but many downs. It was a job that took its toll on him mentally and physically. And after a decade at the helm, the big job finally came calling. Although it wasn't at his beloved City, it would be another city, Leicester City. This was it. He'd made it to the Premier League. Now Martin couldn't have been prouder of this. He felt like he'd achieved something. He felt like he had a chance now to prove himself at the top. And again, he brought his son Lee with him to be his assistant manager. The father-son duo had started to work wonders at Leicester, and everyone saw him as this dream team that would last forever. It was a dream team that won Leicester City the FA Cup. A great day for Martin. It was also a great day for his son. But Lee had started to have a few doubts. Doubts about the way his father coached, his father's footballing philosophy. You see, Lee felt like he was a modern coach, someone who could become a manager himself, someone who was sick and tired of living in his father's shadow. You see, Lee believed in playing attacking football, expressive football, modern tactics. He felt like he could do so much more if he could just break free from the shackles of his father. Now, his father had been a great mentor, a great manager, but one thing that held Martin Smith back was he believed in only playing 4-4-2. He was a defensive minded coach, a disciplinarian. His training sessions were hard, and Lee thought they were outdated. Now we move on to modern day Manchester, and it was a big time for football in Manchester. The Ollie Out campaign had finally won, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had been sacked at Manchester United. Over in the blue half of the city, Pep Guardiola, after many successful seasons at City, decided enough was enough. He needed a break. He resigned to spend more time with his family, leaving the dream job, Martin Smith's dream job, open and ready for the taking. Now, he was the bookies' favourite. Everyone thought he was going to get this job. He spoke about his passion for it in his autobiography and in many press conferences. But after his interview, he was informed he just wasn't the right man for it. He was heartbroken. Manchester City decided to take a crazy turn that would shock the world and break Martin's heart. Because without his father knowing, Lee Smith had decided to apply for it. He'd wowed the owners of Manchester City with his PowerPoint presentation and his modern football philosophy. They decided to take a punt on an unproven manager. Many City fans were shocked. They were wanting Conte or a Klopp, anyone. An assistant manager from Leicester, they couldn't believe it. But Lee knew he was the right man for the job. He was a Manchester City fan. He loved the club, and he knew the way he could do things without the shadow of his father looming over him. Well, he knew he'd be successful. His father, though, was heartbroken. He felt betrayed by his son. He'd gone behind his back and took his job away from him. He really did feel betrayed and let down by his son, and vowed he would never speak to him again. But over in the red half of Manchester, they were still searching for the right man. They wanted someone to come in with experience. So they approached Martin. And Martin, even though no one ever thought he'd ever touch Manchester United, accepted it in a heartbeat and became the new Manchester United manager. He wanted to prove City wrong, and he wanted to go head to head with his son. Now, Lee knew he'd let his father down, but he had the backing of the City board. He had a huge transfer budget, and he had his modern way of playing. He didn't care. It was about him. For once, he wanted to think for himself and prove his father wrong. Prove his father wrong that he was a better man. Prove his father wrong that his tactics and methods were outdated. He wanted to beat his father, and he wanted to beat him badly. But Martin Smith may be old, but he was experienced. He too had the backing of the Glazers at Manchester United, and he didn't care that everyone knew he was a City fan. He was fully committed to Manchester United, committed to not only make them great again, but to beat his boy and prove to everyone that he was the better Smith. So in this video, father versus son, master versus student, who will come out on top? Both managers at clubs with vast fortunes and great squads, but totally different ways of managing, training and playing. Who will come out on top? Well, we're going to find out in the PROTEGE. Hello and welcome to the PROTEGE. I'm Bood, and as always, thanks for joining me. Make sure if you enjoy the video and enjoy what I do, you smash the thumbs up. It helps my video get out there, helps my channel grow. And if you really want to help my channel, you can always become a patron. You'll find a link to that down below in the description. But yeah, thank you as always for joining me. It is a story, bit of an experiment, sort of basically testing two kinds of different philosophies. An old defensive minded manager versus a young attack minded manager. But the story itself is about a father and a son. I know he's an adopted son, but it is a father and a son. Martin brought up Lee as his own, took him to the football, helped him become a coach, helped him become an assistant, helped him become a manager, really. Had this dream of one day being the manager of Manchester City and was just there. But his son, sick of living in his father's shadow, as he'd grown older, he'd felt like he could do things differently. That his dad was outdated, his methods were outdated. Gone behind his father's back, wowed him at City and got the job. So his father feels betrayed, so betrayed that he took the vacant job at Manchester United, even though he's a City fan. He's that desperate to be at a club that can compete and hopefully prove his son wrong. But will he? Well, personally, I'm a bit more of a modern kind of manager when I play the game. Don't like playing defensive, but we'll see. You never know what's going to happen with these things. A holiday into the future, a jump in and we have a look, and there are some interesting things that do happen. At the end of it, we'll have a good look at everything, and you can get involved in the comments and let me know what you think. Let me know who you think the winner was. So let's look at our characters. First up, we'll start here with Martin Smith. He's now 60 years old, and I just want to say thank you to the real Martin Smith. Great sub of mine, great guy, patron, top bloke, for letting me use his face, although he's not that old. Martin's the younger version, as you saw in the story. I've aged him, but yeah, on this he's 60. He's a City fan on here, and you know, his career was decent. Started off as under 18s coach at City, became a coach, went to become an assistant at Newcastle. After a few years there, got his son in, took his son to Charlton, where they spent a decade down south, and then he got his big job at Leicester, won the FA Cup, and now he's at Manchester United. Not where he thought he'd be, but this is a great opportunity for him. Now, if we look at his ability, you'll see he's a great defensive-minded coach, disciplinarian. He does, when I set him up in the editor, it's hard training, maxed out training. You know, he's good. Tactical knowledge is brilliant. He wants big time players, but he's old school, 4-4-2, and that's it pretty much. Long ball, route one. If he scores, they'll try and sit back and defend it. Yeah, a bit of a dinosaur. On to his son, Lee Smith, formerly Lee Masters, and again, thank you to the real Lee Masters, another great sub of mine, another patron, brilliant bloke. I like him a lot. Massive support to me. Now Lee, he's 40, so obviously when he got adopted, you know, the family was young. Don't worry about dates and all that. It is just a story. It is just a bit of fun. Now, as you can see, he's an attack-minded coach. Great working with the youth, because he's done that a lot through his own career. He spent about 3 years at Newcastle. His dad was there a couple of years and brought him in. He was a coach, and then he was the assistant at Charlton for 10 years, and then he was the assistant at Leicester, and obviously now he's got the City job. He allows creative freedom, he uses intense pressing, likes to sign young players, plays a more modern type of football. So yeah, two different kinds of men, two different kinds of philosophies, with a massive grudge between them. A massive grudge. Add a bit of spice. Now, I'm not using any kind of updated database. This is just the standard FM21. So you'll see you got West Brom and so on still in the Premier League and Fulham. But what I've done is we've jumped forward to a point where one of them gets sacked or one of them retires, really, because, you know, Martin's knocking on a bit, and we do go quite far in the future. We're going to jump in at a specific point that I quite liked, and then we'll go to the end and we'll look at things. But at this point, obviously I've looked at each season. I just thought this was a great season. But who do you think is going to come out on top? I had my ideas before I started it. Don't know if that's going to happen though. You never know. So we jump forward 6 years to 2026. This is a massive year, really. And we're going to look at who's been winning what first. And I think it's pretty obvious that Lee Smith has dominated with Manchester City. He's won the league every year so far. 6 titles for City, back to back. His dad, Martin, has managed, what, 3rd in his first season. Then he was nowhere to be seen in the top 3, but he's managed runner-up in the last 2. So it's not looking that good, is it, so far for the old man? When it comes to the FA Cup, Lee and his City team have won 2, and Martin United have won 1, although he has been to 2 more finals, losing once to his son. That must have hurt a lot, and once to Chelsea. Then on to the Carabao Cup, the League Cup. United have won 2, City have won 1, although he's been runners-up 3 times. His dad this season got revenge. Not the FA Cup, it's the Carabao Cup. But he did get revenge, because he'd already been beaten by his son in 2022, but he's just won the most recent one. Now we're going to look at City's first ever Champions League run with Lee in charge, and he won it. So not only did he win the Prem, he won the Champions League, beating Real Madrid 2-1 in the final. Now so far, 6 years in, this is it. He's won 1 Champions League in the 6 years. But we jumped in at this point for a reason. Now this is the current Champions League campaign in year 6. Now he'd knocked out Roma and he'd knocked out Paris Saint-Germain, and then he beat Liverpool 3-1 and got to his next Champions League final. But Martin was on a little cheeky run too, because the old boy had beaten Dortmund and Real Madrid to get to Bayern Munich in the semi, losing the second leg but winning 3-2 overall. Now they played in finals before, but Carabao Cups and so on. This was the first time they met in something as epic as this, a Champions League final. This was the big one. Both of them wanted to win, none of them wanted to lose. And Martin won it. Now he may be getting battered in the Premier League. He's had some struggles, to be honest. When I jumped in at certain years and seen where he was finishing, I'm thinking he's going to get sacked here. But he hasn't gone into that job and beat his son in the Champions League final. So this is like the major first blood in a way when they've gone head to head. Like I said, City are dominating the Premier League, but they won on penalties. So that's the Manchester United team. That's him with his 4-4-2, and he signed some players here. Kane, Fati, got some tidy players. This was the team that faced United in the final, and again, Mbappe, Felix. I mean, it's still got some absolute legends, some top players that are already at City this far into it. But yeah, Champions League final for his dad. Martin was very, very, very happy. Now, while we're here, let's have a quick look at some of the transfers. Now, obviously, pause it. Feel free to pause it if you want to have a quick look. I just want to show you the values. At the end, we're going to tally it all up and see who spent the most. But as you can see, I mean, they do spend some money. I mean, not much that first year, but the next year was 213 million, then 117 million, then 297 million, 77 million, and that's the last one they've been spending. And that's the thing. You know, City are rich, but United are rich. They both could compete in the transfer market. Although that first year, when he won the Premier League and the Champions League, he didn't spend anything. Not really. Not signed anyone huge, has he? He's used what he had and just put in his own philosophy, taking over from Pep, and did very well, but he did have a good squad. But I'm pretty sure the next year, he spent a lot. 306 million, then 303 million, then 185 million, and then 64 million. Wow, finishing off with 94. Now we're on this page Reunited because 2 years ago in 2024, did a takeover, the Glazers sold up. If you're a United fan like me, let's hope that happens one day, eh? I wouldn't argue with that. So there is a new chairman, a new owner of the club, and he kept this man in charge. They're Italians. Maybe they like him because of his defensive style. It's what they do. We've now jumped forward to 2033, and this is the point, the year it finishes, because Martin Smith was finally sacked after 13 years. I think he's 72 years old. But something's happened, and I don't think I've ever seen this happen. A manager gets sacked and then get instantly rehired by the club, but in a different role, because he's just been sacked and instantly rehired to become the director of football, which is amazing. I never put them stats in for him. I made him want to be a manager, not director of football. So fair play. He's 72. He's still going. He's still involved with the club and will have an influence on the club. But I generally didn't think he would last this long, because he's been a bit like this for him at times. When he has a high, he seems to have a mega low. And if we look at the history of the Premier League, you'll see what I mean. So that year after he beat his son in the Champions League, year 7, he actually won the league. City finished second, so he won his first Premier League title. Absolutely buzzing for him when I saw that, because I never thought he was going to. The way it was looking was like complete City domination, and his old methods didn't work, but they worked enough to win him that league title. And then after that, I think he had a bit of a crash. We'll look at the graph in a minute. He managed to win one more league title, with his son winning one and Liverpool winning one in between, but then City have won the last 3. And this is what I mean. If we actually look at the graph, you can see when he finally got his way up there, and I thought he'd get sacked here and won it, crashed all the way down to 5th. Next season 4th, still keeps his job, manages to bag another title, then crashes straight down to 4th. And then this last season finishes 6th, and that was it. They thought, you're old, go move upstairs in the office. His son though, he's done really well apart from one little blip, and I think it was at the point when he's starting to make a lot of changes, a few of the old guard going. But as we know, he won all them titles, finished 2nd, won it straight back, and then boom, finished 5th himself, which ain't great. Next year 3rd, but as soon as he got his own team and started to bring them players in, 3 on the bounce. Over to the FA Cup, and you'll see Manchester United won another 2, and then City have won the last 2. He's been complete domination for City the last couple of years. When it came to the Carabao Cup, Manchester United got to a couple of finals, never won it again, losing another to City. So they had a lot of battles, and we'll look at the head-to-head as well. But yeah, they had a lot of finals together, and you'd say City usually won them. And as a Manchester United fan, this kind of hurts, because we do thrive on our treble, being the only team that's won the treble, the FA Cup, the Premier League and the Champions League. But City in this final year, the year his dad got sacked, managed still by Lee Smith, they've done the treble, haven't they? FA Cup, Premier League and the Champions League, beating Atletico Madrid So yeah, he won 2, but he won another one. Martin won another one in 2030, beating Liverpool in the final. How good's that? And if we look at the World Club Cup, I love this tournament. The new format, I keep saying this in all my different videos, but I love it. Manchester United won it. So he did win one. Martin became world champion. His son had already done it though twice. Now obviously they've had many stars, lots of superstars. They spent a fortune. And they've had a couple of Ballon d'Or winners. United have had Kane twice. Manchester City got Mbappe on there and Kevin De Bruyne. Let's have a look at who won Manager of the Year the most. And of course Lee is on there a ton. He won it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Although Martin did get in there, obviously when he's won titles and so on, he won 3. So that's quite good because he only actually won 2 league titles, didn't he? So he managed to pick an extra one up. And John Dale Thomason, manager at Everton. This guy, he seems to be all over my stuff. Does he become a good manager? Because in one of my other stories, I think the Last Tycoon, where it's Hibs and Hearts, I think he's become Rangers manager. So Lee is now 52 years old and he's still there. He's still manager of City. His dad's obviously gone upstairs at United. And I mean, you could think of a few things. I thought he'd do better. Not because he was at City, because I knew they'd have the same kind of financial muscle, be able to bring in the same kind of players. It was all about how I've made them and their mentality, I think. And I think, you know, playing a modern style works on the game. I think 4-4-2 probably is outdated. Being defensive always bores me anyway. But you never know. You never know if someone can win by trying to get 1-0 victories and so on. But I think his son has come out on top. But we'll have a look at some. I've put something together to hopefully make everything a little bit easier. So this is my little graphic. And first up, we're going to look at head-to-head. So when it comes to games won against each other, they played a lot. 24 won by Lee and City, and 14 won by Martin and United. They drew 6 games apiece, and of course games lost is just a flip of games won. But when it comes to money spent, I mean, they both spent a fortune over 13 years. Martin at United spent 2.1 billion. His son spent 2.5. Do I think that 400 million won him 10 extra titles? No, I just think the way he goes about his business won in those titles. So if we tally up all the competitions, let's look at exactly what each manager won. We'll start off with the Champions League, and of course Martin won 2 compared to his son's 3. Premier League, he picked up 2, which is respectable, but over 13 years, when your arch rival, your son, your protege, the apprentice, boy who stabbed you in the back wins 10. Yeah, that must hurt. FA Cup wise, 3 to Martin, 5 to Lee. When it came to the Carabao Cup, it was 2 apiece. The Europa League, well, yeah, one of those years that they were a bit crap. United went to the Europa League and won one. They won 1 Super Cup compared to Lee winning 2 with City. World Club Cup, of course, 1 to United, 2 to City. So in total, the former master Martin, with his old defensive ways and his 4 freaking 2, won 12 trophies. Although he did win the FA Cup with Leicester. So you could add that. I'm not going to, but you could. But still, it makes it 13. His son, on the other hand, over a 13-year period, has won 24. Thank you for watching. It was just a bit of fun. Hopefully, you enjoyed it enough to hit that thumbs up. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on it, because, you know, just because someone won the trophies, did he come out on top? I'd say he did. I'd say Lee and Man City won this. But it was still good to see him go head-to-head with all the history behind it and the different ways of doing it. And I'm pleasantly surprised Martin and his ways managed to pick up a couple of Prems, pick up a couple of Champions Leagues and still compete, although he got about half the trophies his son got. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. If you did and you're not a subscriber, make sure you sub. I'm on the road to 15k. Hopefully I can get there before FM22. Cannot wait for FM22. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day. Really do appreciate it. Go and watch all my other content. Getting stuck into the Journeyman if you aren't already. And I've got more stories coming soon, especially with the Tycoon series. The next one is a big one. Take care. I'm Bood. Bye-bye.